Yes.
Oh, there is John. Hey, John. Okay. Are we on? Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are on air.
Good evening.
Thank you. So, good evening and welcome to the Finance Committee meeting on June 8th. I will do the roll call. Supervisor Syed, Councilperson McGraw, we have Councilperson Delarada, Councilperson McPartlin, Councilperson Rosemary. We have Paul Briggs over here, Town Attorney. We don't have Elena Finn. We have some of the department heads. And I want everybody to meet Frank Bissell, our accountant, the new accountant. You have been getting the crystal reports and all the analysis and everything from him. So I just want to make sure he's here. He's a great addition to our department. He's helping up with the grants and a lot of other deep analysis. So thank you. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes from the April 13th and May 11th Finance Committee meeting? However, there is a typo in the May 11th meeting, the first paragraph, which says Comptroller Alam stated that an aggressive bid for the town's liability insurance resulted in an approximately savings of $50,000. It is $15,000, not $50,000. May 11th meeting, the first paragraph.
I'm sorry, where is that, Isma?
On May 11th minutes, the first paragraph, it was a typo.
Okay.
Okay, so with that into consideration, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 13th and May 11th Finance Committee meetings?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, I will be really brief for the Finance Committee meeting because Janet has told me I'm too wordy and it takes her hours to type in the minutes. So I'll be very quick. For next time, I'll have to type my own minutes. With that, the first item is a resolution making certain budgetary modifications. However, in your packet, there's a revised budget modification. The original one was about $2,098.75 from the for some legal fee and some of the other things. Thank you. From the contingency, the other one, the bigger one we have added is a $45,000 loan from fund balance to the River Road project. However, there is agreement between the town and the Niskuna softball to pay it over 10 years. So which is fine. We are going to give them the loan and we are there paying it $4,500 each year. So it's going to go back to the fund balance. So I'm going to add this resolution from the floor. So this is additional one. Any questions about that? Okay, send your packet. Okay. Second one is resolution authorizing the renewal agreement for the town's municipal accounting software, which is Munis, for $24,619.26. It's an annual renewal and it is budgeted. So item number C is an update on the 4% 2021 budget challenge. There was a resident last time who asked this question, and rightfully so. We have talked about it at various times in our town board meetings and our finance committee meeting. So we had a 4% challenge of about $665,000, and I'm overall for the town. And I'm really happy to report that all the department heads, they actually came a step forward. They made reductions in the 2021 budget itself. So we had to move very little amount of money from the 2020 savings into 2021. So the town has met all its challenge, except for a little bit of $121,000, and we have action steps already in place to cover that deficit. Any questions about that?
Yeah, how are we going to cover that deficit?
So there are little things that we have. On the next page, I will go over that, the second part. So when last year, when I first started here, we talked about short-term and long-term goals that the town can do to stop the bleeding, and also look at the long-term plans, how the action steps the town can take to implement new changes and invest back in some of the projects, so that make sure that the fiscal condition of the town increases, gets enhanced. So in regards to that, we have short-term and long-term goals. And it's just not the comptroller's office, but you have heard about our wonderful Seth, the IT director. He has brought in a lot of savings too. So in 2021, the comptroller's office has implemented different plans, and we have talked about that in our meeting. For example, workers' comp savings of about $21,000. Health insurance, Medicare, about $69,000. Debt refinancing, $50,000 this year, $50,000 next year. General liability insurance, same coverage, $14,000. Little things like we canceled our agreement with Munis for 2 modules that we were not using, about $2,200, and cell phone return of changes in the highway for about $3,200. So in 2021, the comptroller's office has saved about $159,000, and we are projected to save another guaranteed $194,000. So over 3 years, $353,000. Now for the IT savings, right now they have already done savings, miscellaneous savings like billing errors, reshopping, elimination of duplication of about $6,000 in phones and other things right now. And then in process, they have about $12,000. So we are talking about approximately on their side about $18,000. So the savings for 2021 is about $77,000 approximately, $212 for next year. But this is not, so over 2 years, we will have combined about $389,000 savings. But these are just the short term, right? A little bit of the long term. So what are we going to do? Very quickly. Some of the long-term goals in 2021 and 2022 is the close fiscal monitoring through a mid-year forecast based upon year-to-date actuals to be presented to the board in July. Multi-year budgeting, 3-year budgeting. That's what you asked for, Bill.
Yes,
I remember.
it is.
I did not forget
They-
to be presented in August.
That's something they talk about when you go to the Association of Towns meeting, is multi-year budgeting and, project at least have some 3 to 5 year
Absolutely.
budgeting.
Yeah. And that's what the comptroller's office recommends. That's what DOB recommends. And that's what we did. So we are going to do that.
Great.
And not only that, so the 22 budget is going to be a performance-based budget. We'll just start the process in July instead of September. They are going to start ahead of time. Grants funding, I'll talk about it later. 2022, we are going to go out for aggressive bidding for the health insurance bids. New time clocks implementation in 2022, that's going to have savings in paper and also in productivity. Workers' comp and general insurance broker bid, and intermunicipal agreements, and more grant funding. I apologize, I did not put in 2021 is the banking RFP.
Oh, yeah. But
Sorry,
you've been talking about that, yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to do it in before the year-end close, and my staff threatened me. They said, don't do it.
Too many.
Yeah. So we are going to do it now.
Okay.
Any questions on this? So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Are you going to explain performance-based budgeting at some point? You don't have to
Oh,
do it now.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And can you also go back to the July start?
Yes.
Whichever, take Rosemary's, but those are just things we want to go back to. So
Okay.
what does that mean? That's my question.
In July, the budget process start in July? That's what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send specific modules to the department heads and ask them, look, what are their needs? So basically what it talks about, that I will answer both the things. What are your goals and vision for next year?
Mhm.
what do you need to accomplish that?
So currently, we don't start that in September. I mean, you put out,
Correct. We would send out the same modules that Ismet's referring to. However, they were not performance-based. They
Got
were
it.
just year to year.
that's the piece I was missing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the And then you gauge them throughout the year.
Of course. Oh, yes.
So that's why then the 3-year, multi-year budgeting comes in, because then you are adding to it or deleting from it.
Excellent. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Okay. The next one is update on the grants application. So many times I've talked about the wonderful grant writer we have. So thanks to the leadership from Supervisor and Denise McGraw, we have applied already for 2 different grants. So they were congregational,
Congressional.
that's the word, from Schumer and Gillibrand. We have applied for 2 different grants for both of them, Pool and Senior Community Center for $5 million, and then Police Department that makes up their body cams and then related accessories, and then license plate readers for $135,000. But we applied to both of them just in case. We have talked about the reimbursement. So we have already, our grant writer has sent in reimbursement for River Road project for $250,000, critical pedestrian connections for $250,000, and Upper Union Street plan for $125,000. So basically, and today supervisor got the request from Dasney to do the document sign, which is going to be done. It's going to go back to them, and then the process will start about reimbursement.
For all 3 or just?
Right now, it is a River Road and the critical
Yeah,
pedestrian.
Union Street isn't.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But she has found the contact there
Excellent. Thank you.
and talked to
Is Matt,
who said yes.
me.
Albert.
So I got a DocuSign late this afternoon for River Road.
Awesome.
Is there going to be another one for the other bond you said? So there'll be 2 separate ones?
There'll be 3 separate ones, right?
3 separate ones, okay.
Yep. Which one did you get?
River Road Park.
You got one too, right? There should be,
I sent him the River Road,
okay,
and then I have to do the, what was the other one?
Critical
critical.
pedestrian.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, let me write it down.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, so stay tuned. We will be in touch with, because CFA is coming up in this month, so we will let you know what happens. Discussion regarding solar credits purchase agreement with DST. Currently, the town has an agreement with DST, which is a Schenectady-wide consortium to purchase solar credits for our electricity from National Grid. They came to us and said there's a new opportunity to add 6 more accounts to a new solar farm for additional savings of estimated $15,732 on an annual basis. Again, they have Schenectady-wide consortium. So we are going to, the town of Niskuna is going to get 10% because we are going to make up 40% of the new farm. And then the rest of the 60% are Glenville and Rotterdam and some other smaller towns. I think that's a great opportunity. I will, if the town board agrees to it, then I will send the agreement to our legal department, Paul and Elena, for their review. So I would recommend highly for that. And that the next item is the police reform implementation task force process and timeline. As you remember, the town board submitted its police reform plan per the executive order 203 on April 1st. And also as an organization that really deeply cares about diversity, racial equity, and inclusion, we promise to create structural and systematic changes in the police department per the CNA's and the collaborators' recommendations and findings. The supervisor's plan that was submitted talked about forming a police reform implementation task force to be consisted of the town supervisor, the chairperson of the Public Safety Committee, the town comptroller, police chief, and 5 community stakeholders selected by each town board members now. Yes.
And me.
And the town attorney,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Hold on.
Oh,
I didn't want to be last on the list.
I'm so sorry. So start with supervisor and then the town attorney.
just, I had, you're like, just the town attorney, then the supervisor.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Okay.
The police chief, forget all them.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, well, she doesn't want that kind of seniority.
Okay. So what I'm proposing at this point is that the town board creates a resume review committee. How we're going to get the 5 people nominated by the town boards. So I'm recommending, again, just a proposal that we form a resume review committee consisting of the 7 key stakeholders. Supervisor, I'm sorry, the attorney's office, supervisor, councilperson McPartlin, councilwoman Denise, comptroller, police department, and 1 person from the equity task force. Here is the timeline. The week of June 14th.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
So the 5 that are supposed to be chosen are supposed to be selected by each
Yes.
town board member. So obviously, I think a couple of us won't be part of that review, the resume review process.
So, yes. So
You're going to get to that because I obviously,
Obviously.
want to be able to, choose, I have the opportunity to choose someone, John does, et cetera.
No, absolutely.
Okay,
And
great.
so it's in the plan.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. So the week of the June 14th.
But I don't think that that's what we were doing again. That each one of us was picking one. I thought it was going to a committee.
That's what it says in the resolution, that each town board member was going to be less than that. And I amended that resolution so that each town board member would have the choice of picking 1 person community member. So I'm all for gathering all the resumes together, but each town board member has a pick on this committee. That's what the resolution says.
Okay, so.
So we don't need any other committee then.
But this resume review committee is going to get the resumes.
Mhm.
They are going to interview the people, and there's a timeline to it. And
Then that again, that excludes a couple of town board members. So each town board member has 1 selection. I'm all for everyone gathering the resumes and everyone taking a look at those. But in order for me to choose mine and John to choose his, we have to see all the resumes. That's the way the resolution reads. So,
Okay, so you understand what she's saying. She's saying it the opposite, that everybody can, yeah, that's great.
that's fine, but still.
I didn't think that we were going to do that every person picks one again. I
that's the way
didn't like that last time. I still don't like it today, but okay,
But still the resumes, the town board needs to
Yeah,
have a call for. the-
absolutely.
So we need to get resumes from the people, residents who are.
Absolutely. There should be a call for, to all the, through our website, through email blasts, for those interested, submit. And it should be reviewed by everybody being able to pick.
Okay, so then let's put the timeline still together.
Absolutely.
So as soon as possible, we send out the resume, and then July 1st, the resumes come back. Somehow who's going to interview them? Who's going to decide who needs to be interviewed? Suppose if we get 50 people, who is going to decide whom are they going to interview from this big pool?
Again, I suppose if people have picks, if we want to do group interviews, that's fine. It's an important thing. But in the end, each town board member gets to pick 1 person. So however we want to do that, I'm happy to attend all the interviews. So,
Okay.
I guess distribute them. We've done that before where when we were interviewing for your position, for example, they were distributed. People said,
That's-
I'd like to pick this person. I'd like to have this person interviewed. We can do something like
Right, but
that.
we culled them down from 50 to 10.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that process, so
No.
good to know. But I'd like to be part of this process pursuant to the resolution. So we'll see what we get, right? Let's see how many people we get that are interested.
Okay, so can we have everything done so by the next board meeting, the town has a valid list to appoint the task force? Because we need to start making.
Next town board meeting at the end of the month?
You mean the end of July? Because that's 6 weeks away.
Yeah, July. Yeah.
That's 6 weeks.
Okay, so it means getting the resumes, vetting them out, interviewing them, selecting it,
Mhm.
telling the board who our picks
Yeah.
are and everything.
Yeah,
So
right,
that's what the timeline is.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I believe the next one is from a discussion regarding a town code regarding tree business from Michelle. Sorry, Michelle, I'm sitting in your chair.
No, that's okay.
So this actually was a local law that was enacted or amended, I'm not quite sure, back in 1992. I found this back in like 2017 when we were cleaning out our files, and it literally only consisted of the application and the registration form. It didn't seem like the former clerk had done anything with this. So this was a resolution that every tree service that did work in the town of Niskuna had to register with the clerk, similar to how the plumbers.
Plumbers.
Yes. So I did address this with the attorney's offices back then. And it
I thought we talked, Ray, didn't we talk about this?
we did, and nothing really ever came of it. I think it was mainly because the hierarchy of the number of town codes that we had to amend, and it was just, this wasn't really at the top of the list at the time. I don't know. So it kind of slipped through a little bit. It came to my attention again last month with a resident concerned about what was going on in his neighborhood. So I talked to Mr. Briggs, our town attorney, and together we decided to bring it to the finance committee to see how you want to deal with this. If we want to continue with this town code. If we do, I would say we would want to possibly mirror it like the plumber's registration. We would get the certificate of insurance, which this is already required. Workman's comp and the CE 200, which is already in the registration for the tree businesses. Here it also requests a bond. Didn't say what amount, though, in the code. If we were to mirror it like the plumbers, then we would require a fee for registration, which at this point there is not. We would also require a permit from the building department for them to actually work on whatever residence they're going to be working on. That would also involve the current code enforcement officers going out and enforcing this too. Mr. Briggs did suggest that I survey some of the clerks in the area, and I put out a pretty broad survey. Most of them that came back and answered, this isn't in their code and they don't do it. So it's up to, how we want to deal with this at this point, but, residents did inquire about it.
Shall do the plumbers have to pay a
Yes.
registration fee?
Yes,
What is
they
that? How much is that?
$200.
And every time a plumber does a work?
No, just to get on the list.
Just to get on the
So,
list?
yes, so every plumber that works in the town of Niskuna has to register with me and show them their master plumber license.
But they don't
And
register every
others.
time they do a job?
No, they have to pull a permit with the building department every time they do a job.
But it's just one $200 fee.
To my office, correct, for the registration.
So if someone comes in to change a faucet in my house, they're supposed to go to the building department?
I think it all depends on the
The level.
scope of the job,
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
scope of the job.
So do plumbers require bonds?
We request all their insurances, but no, it's not a bond.
That seems like a lot of hoops to jump through and an impediment to business. I don't
Yeah,
know. And it sounds like a lot of clerks, sounds like you
That's-
told
it's a
people don't
lot.
do that.
It's definitely.
And it's a lot of work. It'll be a lot of work for our building department.
On my office,
It's
the
her
building
office.
office, code enforcement officers.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm bringing it to y'all to decide.
When was, it? We have a law in place and
So we have a law in place that's local law number 1992. The resolution was passed April 14th of 92.
and that has all the requirements in it that you just outlined for us?
It does. I can actually give you a copy of that. I don't know if this has to be brought to the tree council for recommendation.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I know we discussed it at Highway at some point, because what happens is, and I know the very specific case that we talked about for a while was a woman on Van Antwerp. Their next door neighbor was taking down a significant number of trees. The tree service was using her yard as like the staging ground and pulling up trees that I think then were damaging or threatening in some way. Ray's shaking his head. It's all coming back to us now. The trees in her yard.
Mhm.
So she came to us saying, do I have any recourse here? And because we didn't have them all registered, and that's it. All of these things, the plumbers, the TDEs, all of that are just merely about either the town having recourse or the neighbors who are impacted by somebody who comes in and tears up their yard or pulls down their trees, or they're taking out a tree and it falls on their house.
I mean, there's so many.
I can answer that. When it's on private property, that becomes a civil matter. I think by us mandating people, like even if they call the highway for recommendations, a lot of people think,
Yeah.
tree company. We can't give them a name to call. That's unethical for us to call. We always recommend, call 3 different people, get a fair price. We can give them names of people that do work around town that we see. We don't give specific names. We just give, encourage them to use the phone book, or these are people that we see locally. We really don't have the jurisdiction on private property for them to pick a tree company.
Right, but if there was a list that was listed online, then people can see that these are people who are registered with the town. So it actually would be helpful.
And we can actually prove that, yes, these people do have insurance.
So-
And by doing it, getting a permit from the building department to do work, that the insurance always has to be updated with the building department in order for them to issue a permit. That's how it works with the plumbers.
So this local law, though, Michelle, does not require a permit each time. This just
It does not. It
only
just
requires an
requires
annual
a registration.
renewable registration certificate, and appears, given the language, the reason this was enacted was, and I know I get a lot of it in my business in the insurance defense business, insurance. You get some of these people get hurt falling from trees, people drop trees on houses. So that's one of the things that you always want to see if they're insured. And Denise is correct. If someone looks at a list, they know that they've at least met the insurance requirements.
Correct. I mean, people are using cranes now.
That's what the Van Antwerp thing was. It was cranes in the air, and I don't know, it was a bunch of years ago. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago now, but,
Well, out in Rosendale Estates, right near,
oh, Matt's house, the one over, yes.
where's that?
Yeah, this week.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
So we have the law, so
So we have the law. It's a matter of
enforcing it.
enforcing it, amending it to what you may want to require.
In the law that you have there, are there any provisions for emergency purposes? Because what if a big storm comes in and we've got, companies that come in to assist residents that maybe aren't on the list and they need to do it on an emergency basis? And what about, National Grid, they hire people, even the state, to clear trees on other roadways and on easements for utility companies.
It
There's not.
raises real enforcement problems.
Mhm.
I mean,
We
every time there's a storm, you'd have people all over, because you're right. People come in and do that. So it's up to the board to decide.
I don't know the answer to this, but if we have a list, people are going to rely on that list. And I understand, obviously, people are responsible for checking who they hire has the appropriate insurance, et cetera. But if we put them on our list, are we creating potential liability on our part for this is a qualified list or this is a list who's registered? Then we're going to get involved and sucked into things that are really private matters. Just something to think about.
So
And again, the extra work and, of our building inspectors, et
Right.
cetera.
And I think too, with not having them pull a permit, we can't guarantee that insurance is always up to date, which it would
It's
happen.
not uncommon for contractors to get insurance to get their permit and then cancel it.
You're right. You're right.
And there's no
So-
way
Will we limit if people, tree companies may not be willing to put forth all that to us to be on the list. So do we now limit the amount of tree services to the residents that they are hiring on their own? I feel weird that we would get involved in something on private property. I know building permits are one thing, to be honest, but when we limit the access to the residents, of the people that they can use, what happens when a neighbor comes over and helps his neighbor cut a tree down? Are we gonna go tell them they can't do it because they're not sure?
Well, we don't tell a neighbor they can't fix their leaky toilet now.
So
I don't care one way or another about this. I'm just saying either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. I understand what led to us talking about doing it. So,
a resident had.
yeah, I'm saying I know what
Oh,
led to
okay.
it.
So we did some research on our plumbers at one point,
Mhm.
and there was a village that limited their plumbers that worked in the village to, I don't know if it was 15 or 20. And if they had to register by a certain date, like by, say, March 1st. And then if they didn't register by that date, there was also an extra fee if you wanted to get on that list to be able to work.
So the plumbers and electricians, the city has that too. That requirement is more so that we know that there's skilled people doing the work. So that's why we have to have a master plumber's license, or the electrician has to be a certified electrician. That's why Schenectady has those rules. And I think that's why we have the plumbers rules, so that we have people that the work's being done by someone that's an actual certified or master plumber.
I don't believe tree services have that certification, but you do want a very reliable.
Yeah, but I'd have to limit it to those folks.
Yeah,
too.
well, I'm just.
And then again, create liability. We're going to get sucked into things that are really private matters. Just things to consider.
Yep, well, I'm just, throwing it out to you.
Thank you, Michelle. You put a lot of work and effort into this. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. And the last one is authorization to purchase police uniforms for $4,900 from Wicked Smart LLC. I'm going to ask Mike to come. And also Rosemary, just to answer one of your questions first, how the 2021 4% challenge will be addressed, is Mike's plan is one of them. So what he's going to recommend goes a little bit towards that too.
Is this the new uniforms you talked about in public safety?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we started looking at this, just actually a cost thing for the whole idea of the 4% challenge, kind of a piece of it. It's a different uniform. We currently wear blowers. This is a first tactical uniform. The good news is, apples to apples, a long sleeve shirt and pair of pants, we currently pay $174 per uniform. We're paying $90 with this first tactical. It's like a 47% savings that we saw per uniform. But the second part came up that for years, we've never done any sort of scheduled replacement on uniforms. We've kind of always, guys just put in for uniforms when they need them. And what we start to see is uniforms, they fade, they just look kind of, ugh. So in order to get this new uniform into rotation, we look to order a uniform, a short sleeve uniform and pair of pants for everybody in the spring. And then the fall, a long sleeve uniform and pair of pants. And on that rotation basis, we could probably have everybody have nice new uniforms, a couple of them within 2 years. And it'd be easier to think of budget for.
I heard you say that you had tested them out and the officer that tested them out thought they were very comfortable.
Yeah.
Very happy with the product that was cheaper, which is great.
Yeah, the company, they said, they did it was an expo, and I got invited to it, and I went. And what they said to all the agencies that were there, she said, we want to give you free uniforms to try, to wear test. However, we require a male and a female officer to do it because they have female cut off uniforms also. Our current uniforms do not the blower. So, I'm sorry?
Company.
Blower is the current uniform we have. They only have male sizes, male cuts. So Sergeant Party and Officer Mara Walter volunteered to test these uniforms. The feedback's been great. The general consensus around the station is that the rank and file likes the way they look better. The pants, they're slightly different. Side by side, you really can't tell much of a difference. To say that if Sergeant Party and another officer's at a call, the public's not going to realize the difference. It's that minimal. But comfort level is up. As you've seen, they've gone to a different vest carrier. There's another shirt that we're going to go towards that is actually designed to be worn underneath a ballistic carrier. So there's different wear points. It's actually, the shirt's supposed to last longer because there's less rub points on the actual carrier. And they're more comfortable and they're cooler. So in the high heat, it's a win kind of all the way around, so.
Sounds great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mike.
Mike.
I'm sorry, I'm going back to the Police Reform Task Force. One technical question. Where are the resumes going to go to? So there should be, I'm just worried more about the process and the timing.
I thought that.
They can be circulated to everybody. I'm happy to look at all of them. So you
But
won't be
they should
inundating me.
Initially, it should be the town.
Supervisor's
Yeah.
office.
So
Whatever
usually they go to
proposal.
my office. I've been
Right.
sort of the resume collector for different things. So just have them send them to the town attorney's office
Okay,
and I'll get them distributed to everybody.
okay. And I'll send the timeline with that. Okay. Thank you. And this is it. Our next Finance Committee meeting is on July 13, 2021, obviously. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.